This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You are listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. I am your host, Kayvon. The GSMC Sports Podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this show. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and a fantastic early part of your week as we now head into March Madness finally getting underway. It starts tomorrow, and I feel a little bit cheated. I'm not going to lie, ladies and gentlemen. I feel a little bit cheated, and we're going to get into free agency because there is so much going on in free agency right now with the Patriots spending money galore. I mean, Bill Belichick is handing out money bags like it is his job, which it is, and he's got something on his mind, but he's got a plan. I'm going to tell you guys about that plan. Is it smart? Is it going a little crazy? Is it revenge? I'm going to break it down to you guys in a way that will make it very, very simple for you. We've got a lot to talk about with free agency. Winners, losers, who's making big moves, who's sitting back, why is your team sitting back and not making moves. We're going to talk March Madness, of course. I want to thank all of you that sent out your tweets and your brackets to me at GSMC_sports and at Kayvon_sports. Either one is fine, but a lot of you already sent me some of your upset picks, your Final Four picks, your championship picks. That was awesome of you. Love that. Just shoot it in my DMs like some of you guys have, and I'll read it out on the show here later on. And I like some of the stuff that I'm seeing. I'm going to steal your picks, all right? I told you guys, if you send me some stuff that I like, I'm going to take it, all right? I'm going to take it. I'm going to use it for my benefit here, so hopefully I can win myself some money, just like hopefully you guys can have fun and win yourself some money too. But it's awesome. We get a tournament. We've been waiting 2 years for this, ladies and gentlemen, and the tournament is finally here. And listen, this season, it's been a roller coaster. It really has. And honestly, this tournament is probably going to be a roller coaster as well. It's going to be up and down. There might be things that happen that we don't like, but we just have to embrace it. We have to embrace it because you know why? At least we're getting a tournament. You know, when you realize how much you miss something, it takes, really understanding that you miss it by sometimes not having it. And us not having March Madness last year, it showed me that I missed it. I miss it a lot, and I can't wait for those games to start. But like I was saying, and we're about to get into free agency right here in a second, I feel a little bit cheated because usually March Madness starts on Thursday, and that's like the legit games. You always have the play-in games, right? The 4 play-in games. Those are always on Wednesday. And then Thursday from noon to midnight and Friday from noon to midnight, you get games all day long. Well, for some reason, they're doing the play-in games on Thursday, and then the real legit bracket games start on Friday. So I'm getting cheated, I feel like, because I'm not getting 2 full weekdays of basketball from noon to midnight. And the reason why I love 2 full weekdays is because there's nothing better than working from home and having basketball on in the background 24/7 and getting distracted half the day by just watching basketball. I mean, that is so fun. I love that. Sometimes I'll even take off the whole day just to watch basketball. But when I only get it on Friday, I just feel like, I know it's little, it's and I'm not complaining because I'm just happy out of the tournament, but I do feel like I'm getting cheated, and I hope this is just a one-year thing because they want to be able to space out for COVID testing and all that stuff, which I totally understand. I'm really just kind of kidding, but I would like it to go back to normal next year if hopefully we're completely out of this and that this whole pandemic is far, far behind us by then. But super excited, guys. We are getting a tournament. We can be thankful for that. We can be excited for that because games are officially going to start. And I'm going to give you guys my picks, my Final Four, my upset picks. I'll read out y'all's and all that stuff. We'll have a really good time with that. But I want to start off the show here. And I really want you guys to follow along, all right? I'm going to take this slow a little bit, but I have a serious point that I want to make out of this, and I think you guys will appreciate it. So just hang with me here, all right? There's this old saying. It's a very simple saying. We've said it our whole lives, and it's read between the lines, right? Read between the lines. When someone is showing you who they are, believe them. Don't make it complicated. Don't don't try and find the curvy scenery route to come to the same answer, when sometimes you can just go straight through. But I understand, as humans, we don't always want to do that, right? Whatever the situation is, whether it's because of hope, which is fine, whether it's because we just don't want to believe it, which is also fine, we're humans. But a lot of times we don't like to just confront that this is what it is, this is who the person is, this is what we're looking at, and we have to accept it. Sometimes we just can't do that. We can't bring our brains to process that. Like I said, for a numerous amount of reasons. Because we don't want to, because we're scared of getting hurt, because we want to keep having hope, we're excited, whatever it is, we don't do that. We don't confront the real issue at hand. And sometimes we need to step back and just say, let's read between the lines. If this person is telling us who they are, believe them. After they tell you over and over, stop trying to run from it, believe it. It's like that old adage, right? When someone gets drunk, their true person, their true feelings come out, right? That whatever they express when they're drunk, they're really talking to you. There's some truth behind it. Might not all be true, but there's something that out of that they're trying to get a point across, right? They'll blame it on drunk because they don't want to talk about it, maybe vulnerability, whatever. But they're trying to tell you something. The Chicago Bears went out and signed Andy Dalton to a 1-year, $10 million deal. Bears fans, you thought you were getting Russell Wilson, you got Andy Dalton. How does that feel? Now, I sat up here last year during the season. I sat up here again at the end of the season, and I said, Ryan Pace has to go. Ryan Pace, the general manager of the Chicago Bears, has been there for 6 seasons, and he's got to go. Now, I take no pleasure standing up here and calling for someone's job. Ryan Pace is probably an awesome guy. I don't know him, but I'm sure he's a great guy. This is not personal. This is not me attacking him. This is my job. GSMC puts me on here to explain my thoughts and to explain what I'm seeing in the sports world, and then express it. Express the way I want to express it, the way that I think is best for you guys to understand it. So that's what I'm doing here, and that's what I've done in the past. Go check the shows, check the tape, as athletes like to say, right? Ryan Pace has told us from day one who he is and what his game plan is. He's never had a game plan. He's never had a plan. From the moment that he drafted Mitchell Trubisky, he never had a plan. And from that moment on, he told us who he was. And that is someone that doesn't know how to evaluate quarterbacks, that's someone that doesn't know how to evaluate a team and put them into a winning situation. Since Ryan Pace has been general manager, he has, and listen to this because this is mind-blowing. Since Ryan Pace has been the general manager of the Chicago Bears, he has paid Mike Glennon $18 million to play a total of 4 games. He paid Mike Glennon $18 million the same offseason where 1 month later, he then turned around in the NFL draft and he didn't just draft Mitchell Trubisky, he traded up to the number 2 overall pick to draft him. He drafted Mitchell Trubisky over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. So let's just recap here. He paid a quarterback, who was a backup quarterback, by the way, $18 million. And then before even getting to training camp, seeing how good this quarterback is, seeing how he fits with your team, they turn around and draft, and he turns around and drafts a rookie quarterback. Then not only does he draft a rookie quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky, he drafts him ahead of one of the greatest quarterbacks that we've ever seen play college football in Deshaun Watson. Now, a lot of people always like to say he drafted him over Patrick Mahomes. In hindsight, that's crazy, right? That's like the most absurd thing ever because Patrick Mahomes is going to go down as one of the greatest QBs ever. But I will say I don't really like to bring that part up because Patrick Mahomes in college was good. He was a gunslinger, but he really wasn't highly coveted as of who Patrick Mahomes is now. No one saw that coming other than Andy Reid, Brett Veach, and the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a good talent in college, but he had a losing record in his college career at Texas Tech. Like, he wasn't all that special in terms of what he did as a college quarterback. Neither was Mitchell Trubisky. But Deshaun Watson is a different story. And it's one thing, and I can move on from this part. It's one thing to not draft Deshaun Watson. Look, these GMs, they get things wrong all the time. I mean, that's why it's such a hard job. It is one of the hardest jobs. It's an inexact science to draft and to manage money through cap space and free agent signings and all that stuff. It is. It's an inexact science because you never know how these players are going to perform. So I'm not just bashing Ryan Pace because he's done a bad job drafting. No, it's the way it's the whole read between the lines. He's telling us what he's been doing this whole time, and the whole time it's been terrible form. It's been bad GM skills. If you open the GM, how to be a GM 101, what Ryan Pace has done is the complete opposite of what they would teach you on day one. So it's not only did he draft Mitchell Trubisky ahead of Deshaun Watson, and real quick, Deshaun Watson in college, he was a 2-year starter. He played about 2.5 years, actually. His freshman year, he played about 8 games, and then started sophomore, junior year. In those years, he threw for over 4,000 yards both years, over 35 touchdowns both years, 135 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. The other one, 41 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. But more importantly, he played Alabama 2 times, and he lit up Nick Saban's defense both times in two of the greatest games I've seen in college football, right? 2 of the greatest performances. There's others out there, like obviously Vince Young and stuff like that, but you get what I'm saying. Mitchell Trubisky, on the other hand, played a total of 1 season at UNC. He started 1 season, a total of 13 games, where he threw for 3,748 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Not bad, but he only played 13 games. Deshaun Watson doubled that. He started 30 games. He started 2 national championships. He won a national championship. He beat the greatest college coach in the history of college in Nick Saban. He didn't just beat him, he lit him up. So that in itself is poor evaluating by Ryan Pace. But again, he got that wrong. But where I cannot forgive him and look past, he never even sat down and interviewed Deshaun Watson. That came out. He never even sat down and interviewed him, which means he never was even contemplating of taking Deshaun Watson, which means the whole time before that draft, all he was thinking of was it's Mitch Trubisky. So immediately he eliminated his options. And I guarantee you, one of the first things they'll teach you in Management 101 is never eliminate all your options. Always have options. Always have options. You need options. And this guy right away drafted a quarterback that's only started 13 games at a school that was not very good at football at the time in UNC. He didn't do anything special in those 13 games, didn't get them to some type of, college football playoff or big-time New Year's Six bowl game. And top it all off, he traded up, so he gave away assets to get this guy. So that right there, he was showing us his hand the entire time. So first he pays Mike Glennon a backup $18 million. A month later, he does everything that we just went through for Mitch Trubisky. Then, to try and save face, he goes out and pays Nick Foles $17 million guaranteed dollars to come and be his quarterback and challenge Mitchell Trubisky. And then now to top it all off, he signs Andy Dalton to a $10 million deal for 1 year. So the 4 quarterbacks in 6 years that Ryan Pace, 4 quarterbacks in 6 years, guys, 4 quarterbacks in 6 years have been Mike Glennon, Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, and Andy Dalton. He's telling us who he is, and he's been telling us who he is from day one. From day one. He does not know how to evaluate the quarterback position. He doesn't. And that is poor GM skills. And that's a guy who shouldn't have a job as a general manager any longer. And again, I hate to be that guy that comes on here and says, this guy shouldn't have a job, but enough is enough. I mean, what else does this guy have to do to get fired? He sells to the fan base Russell Wilson, he gets Andy Dalton. He goes out and signs a backup for $18 million. He then drafts a guy who started 13 total games in college. Not only that, he passes up on one of the best college football players we've seen in Deshaun Watson. He then goes out and signed Nick Foles, who everyone knows who Nick Foles is at this point. And this is what happens. I mean, at some point, guys, we have to believe who the person is and what their flaws are. Ryan Pace does not know how to handle the most important position in all of sports. And you're just not going to win, or you're not even going to get close to winning if that's the case. Now, there is someone else in the NFL landscape that also has been telling us who he is. And he made a big old splash to tell us who he is. It's time to read between the lines on this person as well. And we're going to do that right after this break. Don't go anywhere. This is the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Kayvon Izami. So much to talk about on this jam-packed GSMC Sports episode. Do not go anywhere. We've got a lot to get into. Someone else is up next to talk about in the NFL landscape. We'll get to it right after this.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
You are listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Kayvon. Did you guys catch that there? I almost did it again. I almost said GSMC Football Podcast, but I held myself. I kept my... That's a professional right there. That is a true-on professional. You know, I kept my cool. I almost went for the football, and then sports podcast. Boom! We're going to get it. We're going to get it. We're going to get it down right sooner than later here. But thank you all for tuning in. What a great day. I mean, what a great week. You got to be happy if you're a sports fan. You just got to be happy. I mean, there's so much going on. And I told you guys this a while ago. You know, keep your phone. If you're a fan of Twitter and you use Twitter, go and hit the notification button on Adam Schefter's page. And every time he tweets something during this time, you'll get it right away. And these signings, I mean, these players are getting signed left and right. We got March Madness getting ready to go underway. And the NHL and the NBA are full swing into the second half of their years, really playing tough hockey and basketball right now because playoffs are coming soon. I mean, this is sports, baby. This is sports. Come on. And I got a good vibe because I feel like the pandemic, we're getting closer to the end. We're not done yet. Don't go all crazy on us and push us back in the hole now. We got to stay smart and sensible because we don't want to get worse, right? We're getting better. We want to stay getting better. Get vaccinated. I'm not here to give you guys a speech, but get vaccinated for you and your health and your loved ones' health. And let's go. Let's go. Let's get back to normal life, baby. I'm so excited. I have not done much during this pandemic. I've really tried to keep to myself, me and my girlfriend. We've really just done our thing. I've been with my family. I've been really trying to be smart. Well, today, for the first time, me and my buddies, I got a good group of buddies that from high school, we still hang out together, text each other, talk to each other every day, really close. We booked a trip today to go see one of our good friends, Brendan, in Cincinnati. He lives in Cincinnati, and we booked the tickets to go there, and we bought some tickets to go see a Reds-Cubs game. And I'm super stoked about that because MLB, this is crazy to say, but Major League Baseball is the only major league sporting event that I've actually never gone to a game live to. I've been to many minor league games and stuff like that, but I've never actually been to a Major League Baseball game for just fun and for the heck of watching it and all that stuff. So I'm super pumped up. We're going to go to a Reds-Cubs game. We bought our tickets today, actually, so really excited about that. That will be a fun time. It's a Friday night game, so we're doing that in April. Can't wait for that. If any of you guys are out there listening, live in Cincinnati, or have been there, hit me up on Twitter. Let me know some things to do. My friend, he's a little bit new there. He moved there only recently, so he doesn't know that many people or that much going on, so definitely hit me up on Twitter and at Kayvon_sports and give me some ideas. Where should we go before the game? Any cool bars? Any cool restaurants? Let me know. But like I said, I'm starting to do a little stuff like that, but I'm being smart about it. We wear our mask when we go out, all of that stuff, trying to get vaccinated. But it is a good time. I mean, sports it's here. It's full on right in our face. Let's grab it. Let's have some fun. So we just talked about, and again, we're going to get into brackets later in the show. We'll see what you guys have picked. We'll talk about what I've picked as the 4 games, the play-in games start tomorrow, and then the real tournament, the real bracket, and this is real. I hate that. I can't think of another way to put it, but the legit bracket starts on Friday instead of it normally being Thursday and Friday like usual. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. But I want to get back to free agency here because a lot of money's been spent. And now that I'm talking to you guys Wednesday afternoon, it is officially the new league year has begun. Right? That Monday and Tuesday is known as legal tampering period where you can pretty much sign players, but it doesn't actually go through until Wednesday. So I don't really understand what that means because, again, tampering is illegal. But in other words, to me, it's just the NFL trying to say, hey, this is a way to create some more news. let's let all these signings get underway going on Monday so that we have a bunch of stuff in the headlines to talk about, which is very smart, by the way, so I understand it. But in terms of this free agency period in exact, okay, I just told you guys my thoughts on what Chicago's doing. And again, no shots, this isn't personal against Ryan Pace in Chicago. This is just the stone cold truth. And that is that Ryan Pace has done a terrible job and he's let Chicago down. And it was a joke that Chicago brought him back for one more year, thinking what would happen? All you do is set your franchise back one more year. So this isn't just on Pace. This is on a bunch of people out there that didn't take up the initiative, if they had the authority, to fire him. That's on them. All right? If you keep giving someone the job to do it, well, eventually it's not going to, you can't just blame the person that's doing the job wrong. You got to look at the person and say, why do you keep hiring him? When he is telling you over and over and over who he is as a general manager. He might be decent at bringing in defensive players, but other than that, he really hasn't done much. And he definitely hasn't done anything in terms of helping out with bringing in the most important position, not just in the NFL, but in all of sports. And that's having a good quarterback. Now, another team that we don't know if they have a good quarterback or not, that's the New England Patriots. We know they have Cam Newton. We know that they're bringing Cam Newton back. Now, this news broke right in the middle, it was like right before our last show. So I didn't get really time to dive in to this Cam Newton news. And that's something that I do want to hit on, but I also want to get into free agency and what the Patriots are doing. So we'll get into the Cam Newton news in a minute, but first let me start with this. I started saying how we need to read between the lines. Well, we're going to carry that theme on throughout this show. We're going to carry it on with New England here. Because, New England made all these moves. They spent a total of, it was in the first day of that legal tampering period, they spent $232 million. A lot of money. And, the media and a lot of fans are up in arms. What are the Patriots doing? This is not Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick doesn't go out and spend money like this. He's panicking. He saw what Tom Brady did, and he's trying to get revenge. So he's panicking. He's panicking. Stop. Calm down. Calm down. Guys, Bill Belichick is telling you what he's doing. Sometimes you just got to dive deeper. You got to peel back the onion. Not everything is right above the surface. It's not always right there. Yes, Bill Belichick went out and spent a boatload of money. But what is the first thing I told you guys on Sunday? And I said this. Go back and listen to the show. I said, look, when things get open on Monday, you guys are going to see tons of money flying around. You're going to see your team spend so much money or your team spend barely any money. Do not freak out. Because remember, these contracts, while yes, they're big in terms of me and you. And yes, they're big in terms of the entire contract. More than half of these contracts, these players don't get all of that money. Now, there's cases where they do. But you have to understand this, and this is why I said on Sunday, when you look at who your team signs and the money that they signed for, the first thing that you need to look at is the guaranteed money. Don't worry about the how many years. Don't worry about the total money of the contract. Go to the last part of Adam Schefter's tweet and look at the guaranteed money. How much guaranteed money is that person getting? Because that is the actual amount of money that they for sure will get. The guaranteed money is the money that they are going to get. The rest of the money, they would have to finish out their entire contract to get all of that money. So when you see Trent Williams, who signed the richest contract in offensive lineman history, he signs a 6-year, $138 million, $55.1 million guaranteed. That $55.1 million guaranteed, that's what you need to look at. That's what he's getting. Everyone's like, holy crap, $138 million. Yes, it's a lot, but he would have to finish out his entire 6-year deal on that, which really doesn't happen often, to get that entire $138 million. So really look at the guaranteed amount, okay? That's the first thing to do. Now, again, everyone's up in arms. New England, they signed all this money. Oh my goodness, what are they doing? Guys, New England is telling you what they're doing. Yes, they spent a lot of money, but this is all New England. I mean, this is totally, New England's not doing something. See, a lot of people in free agency, and this is where you can go so wrong as a general manager and as an organization in free agency, is what the Jets did in 2019. When you just go out because you have a boatload of cap space and you just spend it. I mean, you just spend it all on big names and flashy pieces because that's what sounds good. You go and throw a bunch of money at Le'Veon Bell, right? That's what the Jets did back then. And it just because it's Le'Veon Bell, it's a big name. That is how you get yourself stuck and into a hole. The New England Patriots, yes, while some of these players are big name players, they're signing players that fit what they've done the last 20 years. They go out and sign 2 tight ends. It just happens to be that the 2 best tight ends in free agency this year were Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, 2 really good big name tight ends. But that they signed them because the Patriots want to recreate the Hernandez-Gronk tight end duo. They want to play their 2 tight end spread, lot of blocking, run the football, throw the ball in the middle of the field, between the hash, between the numbers. That's what they do. So then they go out and sign a speedster type receiver, deep threat guy to spread the field in Nelson Aguilar, right? They give money to a receiver like Kendrick Bourne, not such a big name. Then they go out and sign a big time linebacker, a safety, a defensive end, a defensive tackle. Like the things that they're doing, this is total Patriot move. They're doing everything that fits their scheme. They're doing it on young, productive players with, in hindsight, really little guaranteed money if you look at it. Yes, the big contracts are long, but overall, guaranteed money, I mean, think about it. Matthew Judon, $32 million. That's a lot. Jonnu Smith, 31. After that, Hunter Henry, $25 million. Nelson Aguilar, 16. Jalen Mills, 9. Kendrick Bourne, 5. They're doing the New England way of free agency. It's healthy players, young players, and players that fit their system. They're not going out there and saying, you're a star, let's throw a lot of money at you. You're a star, let's throw a lot of money at you. They're doing it on productive players that are going to fit what they like to do. And it just so happened to be that the 1 year where they have a lot of cap, everyone else doesn't. So they had the luxury of making big-time moves. But this is where I say, read between the lines. The Patriots are telling us what they're not good at. See, unlike Ryan Pace, who has consistently kept screwing up the one thing that he's not good at and not fixing it in another way, Bill Belichick is saying, I've screwed up when it comes to drafting skill position players in the draft. I'm not good at it. Look at the last couple receivers and tight ends that I've drafted. Just doesn't work well. I'm not that good at it. Yes, I found a couple guys, diamonds in the rough a while ago in Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. That was forever ago. I haven't been able to hit on a receiver in a long time. I haven't been able to find a Pro Bowl receiver or running back in a long time. I understand that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the money that I have this year to spend it on players that I know I'm not going to be able to get in the draft. Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Nelson Aguilar. Guys that he would not be able to find in the draft. He's telling us that. So he's saying, you know what? No one thought that I was going to sign 2 tight ends. Everyone thought I would sign a tight end and draft another one. But hey guys, I'm not very good at drafting tight ends. really good ones. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sign both of them because I have money to do that. Hey, you know what? Maybe I could find a Nelson Aguilar in the rough, but I don't know. So why not be safe? Let me go just sign him to $16 million guaranteed. He is showing us what he doesn't do well, and he's saying, yep, whatever. I'm going to do it this way. He's doing it a different way, unlike Ryan Pace. Because Ryan Pace couldn't do it in the draft, and he also couldn't do it in free agency. It wasn't working either way. Bill Belichick says, I can do it in free agency. I might not be able to do it in the draft, but I can do it in free agency. So now the question becomes, well, what does that mean for Cam Newton? Are they doing all of this for Cam Newton, or do they have something else up their sleeves? Are they going out there and did they just spend $31 million on Jonnu Smith and $25 million on Hunter Henry and $16 million on Nelson Aguilar and $5 million on Kendrick Bourne? Is this all for you, Cam Newton? Do we have this type of faith in you? Or do we have something else up our sleeve? That's the golden question now. For all you Patriots fans out there, that's what you need to be asking yourself. And again, they're telling us what it is they're doing. And I'm telling you right now, it is very, very fascinating. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to tell you guys if Cam really is going to be under center come week 1 next year, or are the Patriots setting themselves up for something much bigger than Cam Newton. Stay tuned. We'll be right back to talk about that and your brackets after this.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
You are listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This is segment number 3, and I am your host, Kayvon. Hope everyone's having an awesome part of their week as we head into Thursday here. Wednesday is recorded, Thursday tomorrow, and let the tournament begin, baby. A lot of really intriguing matchups in the first round if you look at it. As I got my bracket in front of me, of course, as I've been preaching for the last couple weeks, got to have the paper bracket. Got to have that, so I have that in front of me. Hopefully you guys went and listened to my advice that haven't done it before, and you printed yourself out a nice white sheet of bracket and took a good look at it, fill it in, hang it up, get your Sharpie or your highlighter, get ready to mark those babies right and wrong throughout the show. Throughout the show and throughout the actual tournament, either way. But a couple first round games, and we're about to get into more of the Patriots, and I'm going to give you guys a layout here on what is the correct way to go about free agency as a team. And I'm going to show you guys some success stories of how teams did it the right way. Not just free agency, but also drafting. Just like when a team hires a general manager, what are they looking for? What's the plan? And there's a name for the plan. I'll tell you guys that in just a second. And then we'll get more into all of that with Bill Belichick. And then we'll come right back around to the bracket here. But a couple of first-round games, just real quick off the top here that I really am looking forward to. One of them is the 8-9 seed in the Midwest region. And that's Loyola Chicago, a team that went 24-4, really good team. We all know of Loyola Chicago for their Final Four run that they made back in 2018, I want to say? And then Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, a team that just won the ACC tournament, a team that has been really on fire the last, 2 months? Just 17-8 in a decent ACC. Not one of the best, not the best year for the ACC, but it's been a good year. They've been okay. They've gotten a good amount of teams in, but definitely not their best performance as a conference. But Georgia Tech was a really good team this year. They're a veteran team. Josh Pastner's a really good coach. He plays a unique style of defense, just like Loyola Chicago does, a pack line defense that can really trip up a lot of people that aren't ready for it, a lot of these college kids that aren't ready for it, but two really well-coached teams that I think either one, whoever wins, could give Illinois a tough matchup in round 2. I don't think that they'll beat Illinois, either of them, but I think that's a fascinating round 1 matchup. A low-key round 1 matchup that I think is so intriguing. And look, people are going to call me crazy for saying this, but Houston, the number 2 seed, against Cleveland State, the number 15 seed. Listen, Cleveland State can score buckets, ladies and gentlemen. No one knows of Cleveland State. I know I'm sounding like that total basketball nerd, but I do recruiting for a living. I follow these kids. They have some scorers on their team that can go toe-to-toe with Houston. I'm not telling you Cleveland State could win, but they will put up a fight against Houston. The line right now is plus 20. You better believe I already hammered Cleveland State on that plus 20. I do not believe they are losing that game by more than 20 points. I don't see it. They are a good basketball team. Another first-round matchup that's really, really interesting to me will be USC versus the winner of Wichita State or Drake. If Wichita State wins that game, I think that could give USC some problems. They should win that game, but that's a very interesting one. And then Arkansas Colgate. Now, Colgate went 14-1. They only lost one game the entire year. That's really impressive. But obviously they only played 15, right? They had a lot. Their conference had a lot of COVID issues. Arkansas, a team that scores. So does Colgate. This will be a very high-scoring game. And then Clemson Rutgers. It might be a total of 100 points. I'm not even kidding. It might not even reach 100. That will be the lowest scoring game of the entire tournament. If you are just trying to take a nap and miss a game, pick that game. No offense to Rutgers or Clemson, but those are two teams that play absolutely zero offense and all defense. It is going to be defense, and whoever gets to 31st will win that game. So just a couple of matchups to watch out for. We'll dive in a little bit deeper. I'll give you guys my Final Four and everything come next segment. But I wanted to get back into what I was going here with the free agency talk. And I told you guys, we were just talking about New England, right? And the reason why we're talking about New England so much is because they're really a fascinating situation, right? Think about it. They make the playoffs for 20 years straight, pretty much. Tom Brady leaves them. The whole COVID issues. Cam Newton starts out the season red hot. Then he gets COVID. They fall off. And Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl in his first year away from the team. So Bill Belichick, what does he do? He comes out this offseason and he spends $300 million. And everyone's sitting there saying, oh my gosh, he's pissed off. This is his way of he's losing control because he's not doing the normal Belichick stuff. He's actually spending money. And it's like, pump the brakes, guys. Pump the brakes. First of all, go back and tell me a year where the Patriots have ever had this much money to spend in free agency. Never. They've never had a season where Bill Belichick had the luxury to spend this type of money. They've never had that. So that's one. We've never seen Bill Belichick do this because he's never had this type of money to use. Number two, his roster was bad, and he knew that. And he knew that because he knew that he was not very good. He is not very good at drafting on the offensive side of the ball other than offensive line. He's great at that. But he needs help when it comes to skill position players. And he does really good when it comes to free agency. So he knows, I'm going to use my money where it's needed. And what does he do? He signs short-term deals. He's not giving these players 7, 6-year deals. He's giving them 3-year deal, 4-year deals. He's giving them smaller years, lesser money, productive young players. This is what Bill Belichick does. And it's players that fit their system. It's not, oh, hey, the flashy tight end Hunter Henry's out there. No, it's the really good blocking tight end Hunter Henry's out there. Jonnu Smith, the really good red zone pass catcher tight end Jonnu Smith is out there. Let me grab them both because I have the money. See, I'm on Bill Belichick's side for this. Look, I was someone that gave him an extreme amount of heat for how he's drafted. And I think that he deserves to get a lot of criticism for how last season went because he put his team in that situation because of how bad that team was. But he's making up for it. He's trying to give pieces to that offensive and to Josh McDaniels so that they have something to work with. And he did it. He went out and did it. So the question becomes, well, who's going to be throwing the ball to these pieces? And everyone says, okay, because they signed Cam Newton, that's going to be their quarterback. Well, not so fast. First of all, the reason that they signed Cam Newton, you just sometimes, again, you got to just line things up. It's very easy. It's right in front of our face. The reason they signed Cam Newton is because, think about it, they signed him 2 days or 3 days, I think, before free agency started. How were they going to go into a meeting with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry and Nelson Aguilar and say, hey, guys, come over to New England, but by the way, I don't know who your quarterback's going to be yet. That the first question they would ask him is, so who's throwing us the ball? So he had to have a quarterback under contract, and he sure as heck was not going to say it's Jarrett Stidham, okay? That would have had people running away. So he signed Cam Newton to a very team-friendly deal, 1 year, $14 million, so he could say, hey, look, we might draft a quarterback, we might still be in the free agent market for a quarterback, but no matter what, Cam Newton is there, and you guys all know Cam Newton, former MVP, he can sling the ball. And players love Cam Newton. They do. They galvanize around Cam Newton. They gravitate to him. So that is something that they could use as a selling point, which is smart. Now the question becomes, I'm hearing all those rumors, all these stuff. Okay, so is Bill Belichick now going to trade up in the draft and draft a quarterback to go with all these weapons? That would make zero sense. That's not happening. Unless a quarterback somehow falls to them in the draft, they're not drafting a quarterback in round 1. Again, unless a big shock happens, which has happened before, and a quarterback like Mac Jones or Trey Lance or someone like that falls down into their lap, and like an Aaron Rodgers did back then, they are not trading up to draft a quarterback. That's just not happening. Why is that not happening? Because of the moves that they made. Look, the story is right there in the detail of the moves that they made. The answer is right there. It's in the detail. You just got to look for it. Why would they go out and sign Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Nelson Aguilar? Why would they sign these guys to shorter deals if they were going to bring in a rookie that they would have to teach the playbook? He'd have to learn how the NFL works, get accustomed to how fast the game is. You're not in win-now mode if you go bring in a rookie. But you're also telling everyone else you are in win-now mode by going out and bringing these players in for big money on shorter deals. It's telling them that they think that they can win now. If they get good quarterback play, Bill Belichick saying, I know I'll have my defense looking good because I signed Matthew Judon, right? I signed Matthew Judon. I signed Jalen Mills. I signed Devon. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I signed Detroit Weiss Jr. I signed all these guys, and I have a bunch of guys coming back from opting out. My defense will be good. Now I went out and gave Josh McDaniels two really good tight ends. We'll have the best tight end room in the league. A speedster receiver in Nelson Aguilar, a good slot guy in Kendrick Bourne. I'm not bringing all these players in if I'm not about to win now. I'm going to win now. And you're not going to win now with a rookie quarterback. So that is off the table. That's how I cross these things off. Okay, you have to look at the detail in the story. They want to win now. So you can cross that off. So now it becomes two options. Are they going to roll it out with Cam Newton, or are they going to try and trade for Deshaun Watson? That's what it comes down to. Because either situation would be win now. It would be they believe in Cam Newton enough where with all of these weapons, they can win now, or they know Deshaun Watson's so skillful, he doesn't even need all these weapons. They would be a luxury. And I think it's the first part of that sentence. It's Cam Newton. I think they believe that Cam Newton is good enough with the right pieces around him to win now. And if you go and look at when Cam Newton was at his best in Carolina, go look at the pieces that he had around him. He had a good tight end in Greg Olsen. He had a speed receiver in Ted Ginn Jr. He had a good offensive line. He had a good defensive line for the defense to help him out, when the offense wasn't playing that great. And most importantly, he had a good run blocking scheme where he could run or their running backs could run. That's what Bill Belichick is building in New England. They believe that Cam Newton is the guy because they saw him do it before things went downhill last year. Remember, they were 2-0, and he threw for 400 yards against the Seahawks, went toe-to-toe with Russell Wilson, was on the 5-yard line, couldn't punch in that touchdown, otherwise they were going to win the game. He showed spurts of being able to play well. But the question is, was that false hope? And then was it COVID that really dropped things off? Or was it really just kind of that's just his body now. It wears down. He's not as good as the season goes longer. His body just can't handle anymore. Which one is it? That becomes the $300 million question. And I say the $300 million question because that's the amount of money they spent believing that Cam Newton can be their guy. Now, just if Cam Newton doesn't work out, it doesn't mean all things go to hell. It doesn't mean that all of these signings were for nothing. It just means that the process is going to be pushed further back unless they can then go and make a move for a Deshaun Watson or a Russell Wilson, which could be another possibility. But I fully believe that they are sitting there and they say, we saw Cam Newton put the work. We saw how much he listened to us and he trusted our system and he had our back. He wants to be a New England Patriot. We saw that. So now let's do him a favor and let's go get him some real pieces and let's say the floor is yours. And I think that is truly their plan. I don't see them going and drafting a quarterback. Yeah, they'll probably draft one in the second, maybe second, maybe third, fourth. They'll probably draft a quarterback at some point. But Cam Newton is going to be the starting quarterback come week 1 for the New England Patriots, and he's going to have all these weapons at his disposal, and he's going to have a much better defense. And if that's the case and Cam Newton stays healthy, you can book it right now. The New England Patriots will make the playoffs next year. I can guarantee you that. This is the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Kayvon Izami. One more segment to go. So when we come back, we will do one last gridiron conversation. I want to do a little quick game of who has won free agency so far and who has lost free agency so far. One team I don't think is getting enough love as they should be. I'm very, very impressed with the moves that they, maybe not as big moves, but one big move and a couple small ones. Really impressed with this what this one team has done. And then to end out the show, we will go all things basketball. Set up your tournament bracket the way it needs to be set up. Have a little fun with it. End out the show to a great week ahead so we can then sit back and watch basketball, baby. All right, we'll be right back for our last segment, GSMC Football Podcast. So, there we go. GSMC Sports Podcast. And I'm going to go on that note.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome to segment number 4. This is the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Kayvon Izami. Awesome. We've got through the show so far. We've got one last segment to go. I thank all of you for following along and staying tuned through the whole show. And even if you're just checking in for a little bit of here and there, going in and out of the show, that's totally fine. Any type of your listen has helped us out and will keep helping us out a bunch. So keep that up. Thank you very much. I got started on the show a little bit later today, so it's getting a little late on my end here, but I'm powering through because I love doing this and I love that you guys like to listen. We're going to finish this segment strong here, and then we're going to start to have some fun and watch some basketball tomorrow, baby. So I want to start off, we've been talking a lot of football, and rightfully so. It's free agency, right? We got to talk football during these times, especially this week. Now, this is the interesting thing about this time in the sports world, right? This week, even though it's March Madness, it is all, the first part of the week is all NFL, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and even probably tomorrow will be NFL because of the signings that are happening. Once the games really get going on Friday, Thursday night, Friday early afternoon, boom. It's going to be basketball for the next couple of days, maybe even the next week or so, 2 weeks, all right? And then we'll kind of give ourselves a break from the NFL during that time, and we'll just focus on March Madness and the tournament, who's advancing, who's going to make the Final Four, eventually who's going to cut down the nets. That's what we'll focus on for the next 2 weeks, all right? Then come April, once we get into about April 1st, April 8th, then it's going to be all about the NFL draft from there. Because the NFL draft then comes at the end of April. So after that, it's just going to be April. It will be back to all about the NFL, talking about the draft, who's going to be drafted. And we have some fun ideas coming up for the draft, by the way, which we can't announce yet because we haven't fully put them into motion, but got some really good ideas I'm going to run by my bosses, my producer, about the draft and see if we can do that to have some fun with it. But we'll get back to you on that once those become legit or not. And then after the draft ends, then football will go away for a little bit. We'll say goodbye to football. We won't talk about it for a good while unless some out of nowhere, big time news happens. And that will fully be NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, and MLB baseball. That's what we'll be doing for May, June, July. And then once July, August comes, boom, we're right back into football starting. And that's when we'll be doing college football and NFL football. So that's a little layout of how our summer's going to go. And hopefully you guys will stick around and love the show as you guys have been, and just, power through because I know some of you are just big time football fans, and I respect that. But most of you, I think, are just all around sports fans, and you just got to get your sports fix. So I fully respect that. Now, I want to talk about who I think has really won free agency so far. Now, a lot of you guys might be surprised about this because this is one of those things where if you're just looking at the big picture and you're not really looking at the nitty-gritty, you might not understand why I'm going here. And I think the winner so far of free agency, New England's definitely up there. They've done a great job. But to me, it's the Los Angeles Chargers. I am so impressed with what the Chargers have done. Now, a lot of you would look at it and say, okay, wait, why? They lost one of the best tight ends in the game in Hunter Henry. How are you going to say the Chargers when they lost a player? And yes, they're going to lose Melvin Ingram, their rusher, one of their good rushers. But what they did was signing Corey Linsley. Corey Linsley was all-pro center last year. That means he was literally ranked the best center in football. The best center in football for the Green Bay Packers. The Chargers went out and signed him. That, to me, wins free agency. They not only signed him, they also signed Matt Filer, who has been a really good offensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. Really, two solid, strong, they don't get injured. They play almost all their games, offensive linemen. And why is that so important? I get it. That's not the sexy pick, right? That's the boring pick. You want me to pick someone that signed the big-time receivers and the big-time tight ends and the running backs and the skill position players. But, guys, I can't stress enough to you how huge of a signing this is by the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers have one of the best young quarterbacks in the game. We saw that last year with Justin Herbert, how special he looked out there. He looked like the game was so easy for him, right? He was slinging that ball all around like a rookie. I was so impressed. What's the number one thing that we always talk about when it comes to having a rookie quarterback? It's the 5-year plan, right? It's the 5-year. When you get which we're about to talk about in a second, when you get a rookie quarterback, that is your window, your 5-year window to win before you have to pay them, like Seattle did, right? Seattle was able to pay the Legion of Boom. They were able to make the defense look really good because they didn't have to pay Russell Wilson. Once they paid Russell Wilson, all of these pieces started to fall off, and they haven't been able to get back since. Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers are now starting that time. That ticker, it now begins right now. And they have 4 or 5 years to build a championship team before they have to throw the bank vote at Justin Herbert, right? So they recognize that, and they say, okay, we see that we hit on the most important position. We already did the hardest part, guys. The hardest part is out of the way. What is that? We found the quarterback. You know how many teams are out there? Ryan Pace in Chicago, the New York Jets, Cleveland Browns until they found Baker. We still don't know if he's legit. You know how many teams are out there trying to find a quarterback every single year? The Chargers found it. They hit on that. They're done. So now it's all about protecting that quarterback. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow got hurt last year really bad. Really bad. That is the number one thing is to make sure that never happens. The Chargers need to look at that and say, whoa, we're not going to allow that to happen to our guy. So what do? They go out and sign the best center in football. They go out and sign another really strong offensive lineman like Matt Filer. And they say, hey, buddy, we're going to protect you. Yes, we lost one of your best tight ends, But guess what? With this offensive line, you're going to have more time to throw to your receivers. We'll get you another tight end. Don't worry about that, man. Hunter Henry, he's special, he's good. We'll find you another tight end. We're not going to go out in the draft and find a Corey Linsley. That's not going to happen. Okay? We're not. There's not going to, next year, there might not be a Corey Linsley in free agency. It's only once in a while. And I have an example for you. And I know all you guys out there are going to think, oh, you're a homer talking about your Falcons. But if you just listen to the words I'm saying, it's relative to this, okay? Back in 2016, the Falcons, now Matt Ryan obviously wasn't a rookie then, so that's the only difference. But the Falcons had a bunch of cap space. They were in a great situation with cap space. And what do they end up doing? It was the 2016 offseason. They go out there and sign Alex Mack, who at the time, Alex Mack, when they signed him, was the best center in football. He was. He was literally the best center in football. He was voted to the Pro Bowl in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. He was amazing. He was the best center in football. And in 2016, the Falcons went out and signed him. That year, they went to the Super Bowl because they hit on a guy able to protect Matt Ryan. The center to the quarterback is some of the most important relationship you can have with it. Yes, your left tackle, your blind side, all of those are very important. But the center, you're talking with that center every day. You're taking the football from that center every day. That, to have a top center, and not just a top, literally the best center in the game to come to your team and protect your quarterback, it wins. It wins. I understand the Patriots spent $300 million. I just spent a whole segment and a half talking about how I love what they did, and I do. But in the Chargers' unique situation with their quarterback being young, and already the great weapons they have on both offense and defense, they won the offseason already just by signing Corey Linsley. That was huge, and that's someone the Packers are going to miss next year. There's no doubt about that. And also getting Matt Feiler. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. I forgot how it's pronounced, but it's Matt Feiler, who was also a big time player for New England for many years. He didn't get all the for Pittsburgh for many years, and he didn't get all the recognition because of the guys like Villanueva and Pouncey. Those were the bigger name guys, but he's a stud offensive lineman. So you pair those two up to protect their rookie quarterback. That's a big time move. That is a big time move by the Los Angeles Chargers, and they for sure have won free agency so far, in my mind. All right. This is the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Kayvon Izami. One thing I want to go over real quick when it comes to the NFL, and this is just the best way that I've noticed successful organizations and successful general managers win in this league. And that's what they call the 5-year plan. You heard me say it earlier. It slipped out. I wanted to save it for now, but the 5-year plan, whenever you hire a new regime, right? Whenever an owner hires a new regime, what's a new regime? A new general manager and a new head coach. They are taking over your organization. You automatically start with what you call a 5-year plan. Can you build a championship team in 5 years? Some teams do it different than others, right? The Jets, they went and immediately back in 2018 or 2019 and spent a bunch of money thinking they could just bring in players and make it work that way. Or you look at the Dolphins, right, with what Chris Greer and Brian Flores has done down there. They decided, hey, look at where we're at. See, what the Jets did is they looked at their roster and they thought, back then I'm saying, we can win. We've got some good players. If we just go out and spend this money, we can win. While the Dolphins, they looked at their roster and said, look, we've got good pieces like Laramie Tunsil, but we can't win now. We're nowhere near close to winning now. So you know what? Let's trade everyone. What'd they do? They traded everyone. They got first-round picks left and right. They traded Laramie Tunsil to Houston, got 2 first-round picks for it. They unloaded everyone because they said, we're nowhere near. We've got good pieces, but we're nowhere near win now. So let's start from scratch. The Bears weren't able to do that. Ryan Pace wasn't able to say, let's start from scratch. Instead, he went and sold all of his assets for a guy like Khalil Mack. Then he went and sold more assets to trade up for a guy like Mitchell Trubisky. When you see really good general managers like John Harbaugh and John Lynch just coaches and general managers, and Harbaugh I know, but Ozzie Newsome was the general manager there. Now it's Eric DaCosta, but those guys work together, right? You have the people down in Miami. Look at what Chris Ballard's doing. What Chris Ballard has done since he's got there, he has been very, very consistent with what he does. He doesn't overspend on anyone. He will spend when he wants to spend. If someone tries to say, no, we want more, he backs away from the negotiations. He says, this is what I'm offering. If you like it, okay. If not, I'm walking. And he's done a great job ever since he's been there, right? These guys understand that it's not all about just going in because you have money and spending it all because you think your roster is good to decent, or maybe even great. No, you know when your roster is great. And you know when you're only missing that 1 or 2 piece where you do go spend that big money. But it's a 5-year plan, and sometimes you have to be patient. You have to be willing to do what Miami did, where they said, look, we're going to be embarrassed our first year. And guess what? They were until they weren't anymore, right? We're going to trade away everyone, and we might suck so bad it's going to be embarrassing. But if they believe in us and we believe in our coaching and what we're doing here and we stick to it, we can turn this around quick. And look what happened. They turned it around. In 1 year, they won 10 games, and they almost went to the playoffs. If you do it the right way, you believe in the process, and you stick to it, it can really work out. But it's tough. I get it, because you're in a results-driven business, right? And you think if you're not going to give results, you're going to get fired. It's got to be something that everyone is on board with. The owner, the general manager, the coach, everyone has to be stuck and ready to roll with this 5-year plan, no matter how ugly it gets at first. You have to stick to the plan to get it to turn around. Not everyone's willing to do that, but the ones that are, you noticed, it really does work out for them pretty well. This is the GSMC Sports Podcast. Got a couple minutes left here, so I just want to give you guys some of my thoughts on the bracket. Right now, I might do a couple more tweaks, but right now I have in the Final Four, I went chalk, okay? Look, I'm sorry, I went chalk, but I got Baylor, Illinois, Gonzaga, and Alabama. So I have 3 1 seeds and a 2 seed in Alabama. I know that's chalk, but I have a lot of upsets in the first round, but I really think once we get out of that first, second round, the best teams are going to prevail. That's just how it is this year with COVID. And I have Illinois cutting down the nets. I got Illinois beating Gonzaga, and I've got them cutting down the nets. I think Illinois is a fascinating team. I really don't think that they have a hole. They're really good down low with Kofi Coyburn. DeSumo is awesome. He is going to be a really, really good NBA player. There's no doubt about that. I love watching him play. They have a tough draw with having to most likely see Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State in the Sweet 16, which I think Oklahoma State got a little bit hosed. I don't think they should have been a 4 seed. I think they should have been a 3 seed at least, maybe even a 2. And I think West Virginia should have been a 4 seed, who Oklahoma State beat twice. But it is what it is. I think Illinois is the best team in this tournament. I think Gonzaga's the most complete team, and they've been awesome. But I think Illinois just has different firepower at different spots, and I think Illinois is going to win the tournament. They're going to cut down the nets, and that is my prediction. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this show. I'm losing my voice a little bit. I'm so excited over here about March Madness. I was screaming a little bit earlier, but I do appreciate you guys for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast, which is always brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask if you guys can, please remember, go subscribe to the show. Write a nice review. It really does help us out. I've told you guys this numerous times, and a lot of you listen, and we do appreciate that, so thank you. Also, if you can, follow us on Facebook or Twitter and Instagram. Just check out our social media pages. Go into the space bar, type in GSMC Sports Podcast. You'll see all my tweets. You can reach out to me there. You can follow us, send us some tweets, tag us, whatever. We'll talk back. Thank you for listening. Have a great night, and we will talk to you again on Sunday. After we're already 2 days into the tournament, we'll have a lot to talk about, baby. Plus more free agency. Ooh, the sports are heating up. We'll be right back. We'll talk to you again on Sunday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your basketball.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.